you got aggregators buying brands and then basically just reskinning an item and then doubling the sales. And why is that? It's because one change on a main image can increase your click through rate 30, 40, 50%. And then all of a sudden, instead of being in the top 5,000 in beauty, you're in the top 100. It's insane. So
Yeah.
it's massive difference. A lot of people come to my Amazon guy when they're like, hey, I've been doing good and I want to go from good and I want to go to excellent or great. And that barrier right there is much harder to hit through and it requires a lot more sophistication and understanding. So you can run, on a very basic level, if anybody wants their like 5-minute hack today, if you haven't run a pick food test on your main image to A/B test you against the competition, that's your hack today, right?
100%.
Like you'll get 50 people within 1 hour giving you feedback, telling you which product they'd rather click on and why. And without a doubt, I've already run so many of these tests. I already know that if you have larger text on your item in a main image, you're more likely to get a click, bar none. And the single color attention getting larger aspect ratios, and stop trying to slap everything about your product onto a product label. Keep it basic and simple, and a large word or two that summarizes your feature will do more for your brand than anything else right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This is something that we know Thrasio is doing, right? So they did that angry orange thing. We talked about it on the previous show. They just updated the colors, updated the packaging. And so, one thing I've
And they
noticed.
even watered down the product too, right? Like they watered it down and then
Exactly.
tripled it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's as a follow-up to your hack today, I think the question I have for you is, we have a competitor. They actually added in Photoshop like a label type of thing on a main image and did exactly what you said. Large text with the main feature, the main benefit. Is that something, a tactic you've used? Would it be something you recommend? It's sort of like
I,
gray hat.
I would put that one on the gray hat. I was just about to say that. I think it's not ideal, but I think somebody who's heading towards that and is going to update their packaging and they just put the design up before the packaging updates, I think it's acceptable. If you're putting something that misrepresents what you sell, I would call that black hat. And I'd say
Yeah.
that's a no-go. But if you're just embellishing it, I think that's a marketing technique.
Yeah. Do you use, in that regard, do you use badges or anything like that on any of your main images?
As most listeners know, badges and emojis and other graphically enhanced techniques have really come under fire under the last year or so on Amazon. So it's harder to get those to be present, right? But if they're in your packaging, you're golden.
Right.
So that's how people are getting around it. So in some instances, people will have an item with it, in use right next to the packaging where the item would be in possession of. So they got like a two stack almost. And that's an opportunity to get around that problem. So the packaging can emphasize what you would have put a badge with, and then they can see the Banana for Scale product next to it. Another thing we found is that if you put it in the accessory, it increases your click through rate by 30%. So a lot of the A/B testing we did was to show that, like, hey, just showing that part, that accessory, the fact that this is this is a blender that plugs in with a USB charge, that was a big deal to consumers. And so all of these elements need to be represented in the main image to get somebody to just show up on the listing to begin with.